Welcome to partialarc.com. Don't do that.
In the grim darkness of the far future, there is only war. And a lot of weird shit. Roll to seize!
Welcome to Roll to Seize. This is episode 38. I'm your host, Jay Jones, and I'm joined by my co-host and Warhammer enthusiast, Andrew Dickinger.
That's me.
Andrew, we are back from our field trip to Gen Con.
Had a little hiatus.
Yeah, in Ontario. We don't get to go there as often.
No, not as often as we like.
Yeah, I mean, we had to get those field trip slips signed by the Harlequins.
Man, that was some, deep red tape, man.
Oh, my goodness.
That was, I want to say years, but time is hard to, perceive here.
Yeah, they checked, our bags multiple times to make sure we weren't taking anything out of the library.
I think that was more stamps than I've ever seen on a single piece of paper. Let's just give you, for instance, this is weird three-dimensional paper shit.
Yeah.
And there were stamps on all layers.
And they're asking you, are you here for business? Are you here for pleasure? Are you here for Slanesh pleasure? Are you here for Imperium business? There were so many lists of things you could be traveling for, especially when you're traveling through the webway. It's just crazy.
I didn't expect to have to check no to so many cults.
I mean, so many,
this
right?
cult, that cult, that cult. I'm but it's not just people think cults, they think of just chaos cults, but no, it's machine cult, and then apostasy cult, and it's just oh my god.
And then when they ask you about how long you're gonna be there, you don't know, it could be and then it has by warp time, by materium time, by webway time. It's just geez, guys, we just want to go to a convention to play some games and just have a good time.
For 4 Earth days, I just did air quotes.
Yeah.
And then just, go back to being us, I guess.
Yeah, back in the webway. So, I mean, we finally made it there, and we saw some people there who tuned into this podcast. I know we put it out there into the webway, into the material world, so thank you for those who came up and said hi, who enjoy it, and also for those that ended up playing our board game. Now, Andrew and some of the people we've met here in the Black Library and the Brown Library, we've gotten together in our spare time and made a board game. It helps pass this infinite void that is time, or lack of time, here in the Black Library.
That's right. When in doubt, you could be solving the problems of the universe, or you could be making board games.
Yeah, and I think the latter is really the right call, kind of.
I mean, it's definitely a close competitor.
Yeah, so we're excited about this board game Mortals, which we're going to be talking about very soon, because it's going to be going to this weird, Vox transmission thing in the webway.
I heard it's called, I don't know what the name means, but it's called Kickstarter.
Kickstarter. I mean, what race do we think created this Kickstarter?
I mean, it's definitely got to be orcs, because I've heard that it has relevance to physical damage to engines, which gets them going.
Oh, yeah. I mean, Kickstarter. Yeah, I mean, that sounds... Do you think there was an orc named Kickstarter?
I mean, part of the title is green.
Oh, my... You're right. You know what? The evidence was right there the whole time. Man, do you think they're... do you think we were going to have to track our milestones by teeth? Do you think that's what we're going to have to do?
I mean, we do still have that box of teeth left.
Yeah.
I hope that's, enough.
Interesting.
To get us through the door.
Well, we'll have to see how that goes.
Because that currency is as fluid as it could be.
But otherwise, keep a lookout for this orc website Kickstarter, because we're going to be taking our board game Mortals there in October. Actually, October 17th.
That's right.
So that should be interesting. But otherwise, Gen Con was a lot of fun, and really, we've just been digging into 8th edition, because it is really probably going to be my favorite edition of Warhammer 40K.
It's essentially a new dress on an old gal,
yeah.
I would say. It's like learning the game over again. A lot of people say that about a lot of the previous editions, 4th to 5th was a big jump. We can call them now subtle changes, even though they were dramatic on how much effect they had on the game. It was really just adding a little thing.
But 8th edition, my goodness, from the ground up, from the foundation up, you can really see, especially, and what we want to talk about is the codexes, because really something that just used to be used as just a new rule delivery system, where you were kind of opening up, just being come on, no whammies, what's my new point cost for this? Oh, okay, that's all right, you got a little bit cheaper. You got a new ability, and Man, Wraith Knights seem really cheap. All right, well, here we go. Like, it was always kind of like a new point shuffle to see what you got.
Well, and I think that could step us into our first major point, which is the fluidity of the game now. And where that reflects, we talked about this recently in our 40K Arena podcast, but how much Games Workshop has stepped into essentially adjusting the game on the fly, whereas like previously it was like hard locked. As soon as something released, you're like, well, until a year plus from now, or where it was multiple years,
where they never got a codex ever,
where you essentially you are stuck with rules.
Yeah, you're just like, well, this is it. I mean, Magnus is here to stay forever now.
Yeah, and I mean, like, even the rulebook, though, like, even core rules, there was so many core rules that is essentially they couldn't do enough active FAQing to change everything because there was so much hard lock on, like, how everything operated independently, whereas now it's just, like, one coherent system, essentially.
And they can just kind of update it. They already have, teased, this is a little bit old news at this point, but since our last episode, they've already teased the chapter approved, which is pretty amazing.
Yeah, I mean, chapter approved at the end of the year, which is essentially Rulebook 2.0.
Yeah,
which
already,
is huge. Yeah.
On top of the multiple FAQs they've already had, and multiple errata that they've already had, not only for the core game, but even Forge World.
The thing that I couldn't believe with the release of the codexes is that they released the core rules, and I worked in video games, so I understand what they were doing with this.
Video games? Is this some type of Vox?
It's a data slate. It's
data slate technology?
You push buttons on a data slate and things happen. It's sometimes fun, sometimes punishing.
Like the Grimdark is?
Yes.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Can't have good without the bad, Jay.
Interesting. All right. Did it have boring stuff in it, like what we have in day-to-day, like spaceships and power swords and things like that? Stuff like that?
Yeah, boring everyday
weird.
stuff.
So it was like a reality simulator?
Yeah, some of them took place in like old times, and they were interesting.
Weird. All right, well, go on.
But having previously worked in this strange arena that is video games.
Okay.
You can only do so much internal testing. You release it to the public, and that's where you really find all of the hitches and the bugs and stuff like that. Because testing with 100 people, you're just not going to find the stuff that you're going to test with like 100,000 people.
Yeah. I think just kind of summing all this up is like where we went from a place that used to be like a locked-in, stagnant environment to where we can expect just FAQs and mindful FAQs like, hey, like we realized that this was getting heavily abused and we never intended it to be that heavily abused. So sorry about that. Here's an FAQ to solve for it.
Yeah.
I think that'll kind of segue us into the second thing we've been really impressed with is kind of the new theme of the game.
Yes.
The new theme of 8th edition where like, if you looked at 7th, the theme of 7th was formations.
Yep.
And
for
detachments. Sure. This new theme of the game, which I think is probably the coolest one, is stratagems, is command points.
Yeah, the core of which is command points, essentially.
And all of it is rooted in fluffiness, right? Like, the only way to get more stratagems is to have more command points. The only way to get more command points is in the foundation of having a more fluffy army.
Well, and also the important aspect that you won't get universal special rules for a faction unless everyone in that faction has that special rule. And let's be clear on that because there was some confusion. It's not if something has a special rule, then you get it. No, it's if you have a chapter master for Space Marines with a bunch of Imperial Guardsmen, you don't get any of the Imperial Guardsmen rules or the Space Marine rules for all those units in that detachment.
It's all got to be the same in one detachment, which is so cool and just... It's that thing that we've been wanting for a while, and we've hinted at this as this edition released. It started to really tease it, but this has even more solidified it, especially with how some of the stratagems work, is that they really are pushing towards a fluffy but competitive game, which is just that perfect Venn diagram of a game we've been waiting for Warhammer 40K, and 8th edition absolutely appears to be that. And man... There's just something inherently cool about a game that's all about strategy and tactics that puts you as the player in the game, in the middle of a game. Not even in list building, which was very much the general's seat beforehand, where you're sitting and, mapping out, okay, what list can I expect? What do I need to have? What do I need to expect? And how do I build it into my list? Now, you are actively changing your list and game in the middle of a game.
Yeah, I mean that's super important. Is that essentially in most of the previous editions, the game could be decided before it started.
Right.
And that especially 7th edition was very rock paper scissors, where essentially you had a couple top tier armies that were the best, as you could call take all comers, were essentially the most abuse that you could have in the edition. And then you had lists that were trying to be balanced but also have fluff that could just run into Imperial Knights and have no answer.
Right.
Whereas now you come up with a fluff-driven, like, say, with the Space Marine Codex, you could come up with a fluff-driven heavy command point list that those choice of command points could drastically change how a game goes.
Oh, yeah. I mean, even up to what they're armed with. Because relics and artifacts in this game are essentially command points.
They're bought by command points.
Because they just make a super version of the weapon they already have. So you're starting the game, you're like, okay, what do they have? All right, I'm going to need to be heavy in close combat, and I'm going to need to deal with that. I'm going to drop a command point immediately on this amazing super demon murder sword. Or I know I got to put my HQ like right into the face of the enemy turn 1. I need him to survive. I got to drop a command point on that crazy storm shield that gives me like a super reroll or whatever.
Well, let's also reflect on that. Because they're bought via command points, they're not points in your list, which also means you're not required to take them at the beginning of the match.
Yeah.
You choose whether or not to take them, which is like, holy shit. You think about that for when the Tau Codex comes out, and essentially you always had a Buffmander in 7th edition Tau. Now you have like the choice pre-game to see what you're fighting and then be like, actually I don't want this thing that I take 9 times out of 10.
Yeah.
That's huge.
And it also like even changes just how like units play. I love how in the Space Marine Codex there's like an ability where you can just make your whole like you can make 3 Vindicators turn into like this super mortar weapon, or you can make your Predators like these super monster hunters for 1 turn.
Which essentially is formations from 7th now having been rolled into this as a temporary option that you must pay for.
Which is so cool because it basically means you can have the power of formations, but temporarily and in strategic moments. Which means when you start, and there's also like, there's some trickery there, right? When you got into a game before, and we're going to use the most abused formation as an example here, Riptide Wing, right?
Yes.
They were everywhere. Riptide Wing, when you would see them at the start of a game, you knew exactly how they functioned, what they would do, when they would typically do it. Everybody knew, which, yes, they were very strong, but also, if we want to look at a disadvantage side, the opponent...
They telegraph
what they're going to
Yes.
do. As an opponent, you know what a Riptide is going to do, and it's usually bad, and it's hard to deal with in the first place, but you can at least mitigate. Now with stratagems, you can, if you had, let's say, a Riptide formation stratagem, which I'm sure Tau will have something like that, right?
Yes.
But what that means is you don't know when they're going to pop that. You don't know when they're going to use that stratagem, and it creates more interesting tactical moves for a general. For example, one that I think is really neat, I'm sure plenty of people have highlighted, or maybe they haven't, but there's a really cool power in Chaos Space Marines that lets you just switch a psychic power on the fly with a stratagem.
So strong.
Which... it's like, okay, well, you just get an extra psychic power. It's either, I think you either get an extra one or you switch it. Either way, you're getting a new psychic power mid-game at any time.
I believe it is exchange.
And it's almost like, okay, well, you can pick anyway, so what's the point? Well, the point is, your opponent isn't expecting that psychic power. They're starting the game thinking, okay, he took this psychic power, which is basically like a better version of Smite, also took this reroll psychic power, also took this bubble, this aura one. Okay, I know what to expect, right? Because that's the whole point. Your opponent is looking at your list, unless you're Andrew and I, who constantly make mistakes all the time, which we'll get to, but you've got your expectations. But with this, you could mid-game switch and be like, guess what? Now I have warp time, and this person doubled their move, and they're in your face, and completely change the dynamic of a fight. It's amazing.
Yeah, well, I think the most where this is reflected is not with the Psychers that have access to more than one power. Where this is mostly reflected is the Psychers that have only a single power. Because then it's like, let's say, for me, who actually uses Psychers in the armies I'm playing, like Tyranids and Genestealer Cult, you pick that one power, you're stuck with it, and if there's, with regards to range or just what the opponent has, if there's not a use for it, there's just not a use for it, and you end up smiting most of the time.
Yeah.
Whereas for this, the fact that any Psyker could essentially just have any power that's listed in their book at any time makes it so it's not exactly clear where you should be focusing. And this is where I want to mention the power in Space Marines Codex that I love. It's just like a power where it's like, I guess I can't totally leave this alone because it's giving smite to something that's not a Psyker, and that's the Hellfire rounds for heavy bolters.
Yeah, that's so crazy.
It's just the fact that you can't just ignore a heavy bolter, because a heavy bolter could just pay a command point and suddenly have mortal wounds. And it's just like, shit, like that makes a heavy bolter so valuable in Space Marines, whereas previously heavy bolters were just shit throwaway weapons.
Yeah.
And now it's like, man, that could suddenly just bypass invulnerable saves and completely alter the course of a game.
It's so cool.
It's huge.
It even makes for like really cool narrative moments. I want to call out a couple stratagems that's in the Grey Knights Codex, which I have right here, where like you have a character that you're like, you know, your own mind, you're like, this character is like my boss character. They've never been killed by a demon, or like whatever narrative you have for your army. Everybody has kind of their own unique narratives for their own armies.
Sure.
And you can have stratagems support that. For example, there's a stratagem called True Silver Armor, which is you use this stratagem when a Grey Knight's vehicle suffers a mortal wound. Roll a d6 for that mortal wound and each other mortal wound inflicted on this model for the rest of the phase. On a 5+, that mortal wound is ignored. What's really cool about that is, in Grey Knights, a vehicle can be a Dread Knight. Dread Knights are not only like your big badass heroes in these super machines, they can also be your Grand Master.
Oh, finally you can have heroes in Dread Knights, because why wouldn't the captain use a huge battle suit?
They're amazing. To fight demons, you want to be in a super suit to fight the big demons. And the thing is, you can, in a moment's notice, hey, you're getting hit with smites? Nuh-uh. My dude's a badass. He's got this crazy narrative, awesome armor that protects against mortal wounds. It's a really cool way to support these really interesting narrative moments you can create in your war game.
Yeah, it's spot on.
It's so exciting. But guys, I think we've talked long enough about the excitement we have for 8th edition and the fun things going forward. But now we're going to get into our favorite segment. Right, Andrew? Our Seeds of the Month, where we talk about how we made some big old mistakes at our previous tournament.
So many.
And this tournament was a pretty big one. This was the Hammer of Wrath tournament taking place at Game Empire in Pasadena.
Yeah, I mean, it's the once a year, 2-day grand tournament, 5 total games.
And we got to give a shout out to the winner of the tournament, which was Adrian.
Yes.
Adrian has been playing at this club for a long, long time. He's a great player. He's a Sisters of Battle player, and he's been diehard for the longest time, all the way even through 7th edition.
Yes.
When Sisters wasn't at the higher
the upper echelons
that it is now. And he's been diehard all the way through, and kudos to you, Adrian. I mean, you crushed it. You did an excellent job at the tournament.
Slugged it out and took first place.
Yeah, and deserved every win, man. Congrats. But I gotta say, there were some mistakes that we managed to do at this tournament.
You know, I'm gonna do something that I don't think has ever been done, Jay.
Wait,
I'm gonna volunteer to go first.
You're gonna fall on the sword?
I am falling on my sword.
My
Jay.
goodness, sir. You know what? Good luck.
So, playing at this grand tournament, I was running an amalgam list. So I've been running NIDS, and this is still heavy experiment period because there's just too much.
We call it the Eldar effect, and it is still around.
I mean, the heavy decision paralysis. It's actually less I find decision paralysis and more that there's just too many things I want to try. And so it's not like, but this is good, so I don't know exactly which one is better. It's like, this is good, I gotta play that. No, this is good, I want to play that. Well, I guess I'll throw them all into one list. Does this list work? I don't know, but we're gonna try
out.
It. But this time I decided to try a combo list using the Tyranids Genestealer Cult Astra Militarum combo. Well, the Astra Militarum portion of my list was just Pask, which people are like, oh, that's super unfluffy. But I'm saying it's a commander and a tank. Really,
he's taken over by the cult. I mean, Pask has seen the error of his ways. The four-armed emperor is the way to go. Yeah, and he's all in, man. He's all in for that squishy, delicious hive mind action.
Yeah, I mean, like, this is as far as that my conscience would take me, would be to take Pask with a Punisher cannon and then 3 units of Ratlings, which Ratlings play very well.
They're
into
really
Genestealer
good now.
Cult. They're very good, but they're also very Genestealer culty. They work really easily because they're skulkers and snipers and stuff. But that's as far as I went. It was just Pask and 3 units of Ratlings, just to have the Ratlings, because Ratlings are really useful for altering deep strikers and stuff like that, but also sniper is valuable and hard to find.
Right.
So I won't be using that again. My conscience was stretched so far, and actually just having just Pask really didn't work with my list at all.
And Pask committed suicide for the Emperor at every fight.
I also, for my NID list, I had Swarmlord in there, and I
haven't played Swarmlord, so you have more insight than I do.
I do.
But seems pretty good.
He's not good. And I'll point this out. He's not good because he's overcosted for a character that essentially affords no buffs for his army like G-Man does. He also loses to G-Man in combat almost every time.
But here's the thing. If we compare all characters to G-Man, they will all fall short. For G-Man has been given all the gifts.
He is the king of the hill. But the rest of that list was kind of douchey, according to some people. I call it the meta and what I have to take to deal with things, but also very fun.
Sure. Whatever helps you sleep at night.
Which, of course, is Old One-Eye. Must take. Yeah,
Which I would argue he's not cheesy in any way.
No, he is the best character in the Codex, in my
just
opinion.
Incredible.
Very few people use it, and I'm happy because then very few people expect the
Old One-Eye?
The Old One-Eye Inquisition, because he is a destroyer. And he's just a 10 wound, 140 point character.
Just murder machine.
That's seeing people see what he do and then throwing 15 plus lascannons at him to kill him because they've seen what he can do is the best satisfaction.
Yeah, I'm going to give everyone a perfect reenactment of an opponent who is attacked by Old One-Eye. Oh, cool, a Carnifex. He's how many attacks? Oh, okay. Wait, how many more attacks does he have now? Wait, how much damage is that? Jesus Christ, what the fuck is this thing?
Yeah.
That has been the Old One-Eye opponent reenactment.
Yes, I mean, like, that has happened. He's taken 26 wounds off of a Squigoth, a gargantuan Squigoth, I should point out. He took 15 wounds off of a greater brass scorpion on the first turn.
The scorpion had no idea what was going on. What is happening to me?
He is just the angriest little beetle in the galaxy, and I love him. I love him to death. I took a Malanthrope as well, because Malanthropes, especially with the FAQ of it just being a unit, not models, so valuable.
Oh, Malanthrope, so good. But, Andrew, there was one group of units.
No, I'm getting to it.
That some people might say was a bit much.
I had 15 Biovores. 5 units of 3. They are very good.
And if you encircle them just right, they open a warp gate to hell!
I don't know about that. It's possible. They have a lot of good abilities. In this edition, they're very strong. And I don't think they're overpowered. They're just strong. Because their ability is when they shoot spore mines, you essentially have to roll to hit as normal. And they're a 4+ to hit, so it's still a 50-50 chance. But if they miss, you place a single spore mine within 6 inches, but very specifically outside of 3 inches from the target unit. If they can't be placed, they're just destroyed. And if you know, spore mines or mines of any type in Tyranids never count for victory points of any type. So it's like...
They also don't count as, fun fact, infantry.
I'll get to that little bit in a second, because that happened once. So you place them, but if you hit, then if you roll a 1, they do nothing. It just phases out. If you roll a 2 to 5, it's a single mortal wound. And if you roll a 6, it's D3 mortal wounds.
It's not bad.
Now, mortal wounds are very, very valuable in this edition because they specifically bypass invulnerable saves.
And there's not that many of them. Not yet until more stratagems come out, but not yet at this moment.
I don't... from everything that they've released on community page and everything that Frontline has told us, like, mortal wounds are still going to be like a diamond in the rough. Like, you're not going to have them everywhere. And the places that you have them are going to be obvious to your opponent, so they'll know how to get rid of them. And Biovores specifically, with that ability with the spore mines, where it comes into play that a little people get a little salty is because it's individual units. So if you miss with, say, 7 of them, that's 7 individual spore mines that get placed.
It's not a unit of 7.
It's not a unit of 7. It's just 7 individual. So you essentially have to choose to target them individually. Now let's remember, their toughness 1 with a 7+ save. I didn't say that incorrectly. It is a 7+ save, which means unless they're in a cover that gives them a bonus, they have no save and they're 2+ wounded by everything in the game.
Yep. But, fun thing, you can create your own little Biovore spore mine wall and trap somebody in there.
Yeah, so they aren't infantry, as Jay mentioned, which means that specifically things like knights can't walk over them. So you can just...
Because they're afraid. They're going to step on them.
Yeah, you can...
Oh, no. Oh, that looks really prickly. I'm just going to stay over here.
And they're going to explode on you.
Now, Andrew, I know you've used this tactic before, but eventually you're going to have to tell us about your terrible mistake.
All right, so playing with this army, and the reason I said that specifically Swarmlord doesn't work with it, I'll point out in all 5 games, Swarmlord and Pask did fuck all in my games other than Bullet Sponge. Like, they really just didn't work with what I played. So that I was already at a handicap essentially because I had these units that essentially accomplished nothing. But on this one map in particular, going against Imperium both times,
same mat,
on the same mat,
both Imperium,
both times, both long ways deployment, one with the arrowhead, one normal hammer and anvil. I managed to fuck up my deployment both times and essentially throw the game turn
Now
one.
that is some classic Seize of the Month action right there.
Yeah, I mean, like, the fact that I did it not only once, but twice, because I didn't realize that I had this fire base, I guess, in my brain of spore mines, that, well, biovores specifically, that I could just sit back, because you don't need line of sight to target with them. And 48-inch range is a long ways. So I essentially could just make a fire base with these suckers and just plink at them, because both objectives in the game were either in the center of the field with relic or in my deployment zone.
Oh boy.
So yeah, I managed to just throw all of my objective grabbers into the lion's den, and they proceeded to all die very quickly. And all I was left with was these biovores, these 15 biovores and a malanthrope, which, yeah, I never gave up warlord, because my malanthrope was always my warlord, because why wouldn't you make the malanthrope your warlord? But I essentially lost both those games in horrific fashion, because all I had left was the biovores, which meant that, like, his entire army was in capturing objectives, or in the case of my last opponent, I left a gap in my back line, which meant like 10 Stern Guard and 3 units of Devastator's Deep Strike back there, because he was running Raven Guard with Lias Isidon, Forge Commander, and he literally just blew away my entire back line in one turn and then assaulted 2 of my units of Biovores. I was just like, that was an oversight. Shit.
But the Biovores were there at the very end. The army broke before the Biovores did, right? That's their classic. That's the classic Tyrannid phrase.
I guess. I mean, they're fearless because the Malanthrope is there, but I mean, like, no. But yeah, that's my C's. I literally fucked up. I could have just not been as aggressive both times, and I was just way too eager to get my own shit killed.
Go, Bugs, go forward. Oh,
so that's my C's, Jay. Go for it.
Cool. Well, I guess those were both of our C's of the month.
You've done that tactic before. Nope.
Damn it.
You can't use me as your C's.
Stratagem used to ignore C's of the month. Go, 1 CP.
No, too bad. It's 10 CP and you only have 1.
That's a lot of CP. God, I'm looking it up right now. Damn it. Yeah, that FAQ is bullshit. 10 CP to ignore my C's of the month? Fuck, all right. Well, should have brought a brigade. Basically, my C's of the month boils down to one phrase, and it is that Tower fucking sneaky. Tower fucking sneaky pants.
Let me ask you a question.
Mm-hmm.
Is it possibly relevant to A, drones,
possibly,
and B, savior protocols?
Fucking both of those things.
Okay, so it turns out, preface, Tau are way tougher than people think.
Yeah, those goddamn sneaky ass drones. Fucking sneaky frisbees is what's going on there. I run an army of clown ninjas, and they're not as sneaky as those goddamn frisbees.
Well, you're like the opposite of sneaky, though. You're literally as conspicuous as you can be.
Yeah, with all those colors and all those sweet flips, you can see my army coming from a mile away.
And your guns are literally shooting concentrated laser beams.
Yeah, our grenades are like disco ball explosions.
You're a moving laser light show, Jay. You are not ninja.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
You're a circus on wheels.
But we're like ninjas. Instead of hiding in the shadows, we hide in the light. You know how ninjas are. So I've been experimenting with my Harlequin army because I'm still trying to tool it.
It's fucking devastating.
Now that the Solitaire got that, now that he got his mask back, you know, when Solitaire got his mask back, basically he is back in the army.
He's a truck, man.
He was out for a little bit, but now that he can benefit from that Troop Master ability, he's so good.
Real wounds in combat is strong.
Yeah, he can reroll wounds as long as he's within 6 inches of a Troop Master, and they are everywhere in my army. Coupled with Star Weavers, now everybody's rolling deep with fusion pistols for everybody. You get a fusion pistol, you get a fusion pistol.
That is not an exaggeration. Literally every troop that he has and Troop Master, every single guy has a fusion pistol. They
went to the hairdryer armory and they picked themselves up a nice, sexy fusion hairdryer, and they're running around and blowing stuff up with.
That was definitely a clearance sale. I mean, like,
yeah. Oh my goodness, every fusion gun must go. We don't know why we have so many of these things, and nobody's picked them up.
It's because no one used them in the previous editions at all because they were too expensive.
Whew. I'm glad they kept them. But another addition I had to this army as well is the Hemlock Wraithfighter.
Beast.
Boy, Hemlock Wraithfighter, where have you been all my life? I've never really cared about flyers, but holy crap, this thing is dirty. I was like, at first I was like, oh, I mean, I don't know what's so good about it. It's very expensive, and it's just got this one gun. I mean, oh, wait, no? It has 2 of those guns. Oh, wow, and they're flamers. So even as it takes damage, the only gun it can get, by the way, is a flamer gun, and the damage, when it takes damage, it loses ballistic skill value. So, like, I don't know what was going on there, but I'll take it. And then also, I was like, well, it's still pretty good, but I don't... Wait a second, it's psychic?
Yep.
It can do smite?
Yep.
And it's full smite? All right.
Which,
also,
if you haven't put it together, as a flyer with that much movement,
yeah,
means that you can put the smite basically wherever you want.
it's 20 to 60 range. You put it at the very back of your army, and then you just put it wherever you want. It's incredible. Also, with the Hemlock Wraithfighter, it has this cool ability where it can turn after it's moved.
It's essentially Vector Dancer if you were familiar with 7th edition.
Yeah, so basically, I don't even have to worry about it flying off the board or weird positioning. It can just go back and forth over top of enemies over and over and over again. It's crazy.
Yeah,
and
real strong.
I found out the Solitaire's a great sniper for Harlequins. Hemlock Wraithfighter, the best sniper.
It's not a Harlequin, I'm just saying.
Well, I mean, the guy inside's wearing a clown mask. So, canonically, he is a Harlequin. He's just a crazy Harlequin in the sky.
Well, we'll go with it.
We'll get there. But back to my C's.
Drones.
Because fucking drones.
Stop dodging the subject.
So, a Starweaver creeps on up to an unsuspecting unit of broadsides. At least I thought they were unsuspecting. And I roll up deep with my hair dryers, my fusion hair dryers, and I'm like, all right, it's time to go to Clown Town. I'm about to blow up these dumb old broadsides real easy.
Because mass D6 damage weapons
is usually a great solution for broadside problems. One thing, unfortunately,
not so much,
is that he had a whole bunch of little fucking drones all around him. I believe 8 of them. 8 drones all around.
The important thing to make a note of is where we're going with the savior protocols. It does not require the drones of the unit to be in range, just any drones.
Exactly. These drones came off of a nearby hammerhead. They just teamed up, just drone buddies, just happened to be nearby. Oh, don't mind if I do take this shot for you. And yeah, the moral of the story is shoot your small gun fire and your grenades at the drones first, and then shoot the broadsides, because unfortunately, I had other like small fire guns that I could fire. I say small fire, they're shuriken cannons, but I mean more DACA, I guess, that I could have fired at the drones to clear them out, because they're not hard to kill.
Things more entitled, they're actually harder than you... Okay. The moral of the story is that you have to clear the drones.
Clear the drones first before you go for the big guys.
They're not super easy, but they're like that rash you can't get rid of.
When you compare them to broadsides, they're easier. So basically, what I did is instead of firing at the drones first with the DACA that I had, I instead put all my fusion gun fire into that broadsides, thinking I'm going to sit back in my clown chair and be all like, yep, putting my feet up right here. Those are some dead broadsides. Nope. Instead, all the stupid frisbees jumped in front of all my fusion fire, and then the broadsides were like, hey, that seemed like a pretty good plan you had there. Oh, what's this? Oh, these are my big old rail guns. You're about to die, Starweaver. And they did. Yeah, and the stupid drones with all their burst fire killed all my little clowns afterwards. So, yeah man, drones. Don't underestimate those frisbees. They're sneaky.
Yeah, because, I mean, that ability in 5th edition was, like, their saving grace, essentially. But now, the fact that it's any drones can just choose to take wounds is...
So good.
I feel like that's where some Tau players are stepping into it, but, like, where a lot of Tau players will finally realize where the magic is.
Oh.
Because remember, you can do that. It's for anything that specifically has the infantry or battlesuit keyword can do that, which means you could have like a horde of drones just standing next to a unit of fire warriors. And guess what? You have to get rid of all those fucking drones before you can start damaging the fire warriors, which is just like Jesus.
They're like the lemmings of Tau armies, just jumping in front of fire. It's just crazy. But yeah. So that's my C's of the month. Tau is fucking sneaky. But guys, that takes us to our next segment, the Brown Library.
So it's one thing being like stepped out of the game, but being within the universe. Jay is writing an email right now about having 10 CP.
About the 10 CP. I was really excited about my stratagem to ignore Seasons of the Month, and now I gotta spend 10 CP to do that?
Did you not read the contracts that we signed with regards to the new edition?
It's weird that those new addendums came with stratagems.
I mean, I know it was like 6 million pages long, but I feel like you missed a major peg there.
Yeah, I know. I need more brigades, man. I just need more.
Wait, who are you emailing?
You know, the Great Workshop. You know, the Workshop of Games. They kind of control the the stratagem and contracts in this universe, so I figured if I let them know, they'll reach out to the Harlequins and maybe get them to change our addendums to our contracts.
What makes you in any respect think that they would listen to you?
I mean, I complained a lot in the beginning paragraph of this.
Wait,
I feel like...
do you even have their email?
I mean, I wrote the Great Workshop at the top here, and I feel like the mail will know where to take it.
Yeah, I mean, the
CSPS
is pretty thorough.
It's pretty damn good. Now, I know it transports mostly in vomit and through the warp, but, I mean... It's been reliable.
Yeah, but everybody does things through the warp these days. I mean, that's actually a good point.
And the tracking isn't bad. I mean, it gave me the tracking number here. I'm looking forward to it.
I mean, I'd stopped following the tracking since the tracking they were sending me was just screams of varying volume and intensity of things that I'm not even sure what was screaming. So
yeah, that's a good point. But anyways, I mean, now that I've sent this off and yeah, there it goes. I hope they enjoy receiving that. I guess we should talk about our army we're going to talk about for this segment.
Yeah, so this is a faction specifically that I loved, and I'm going to just go out there and say that it is a Space Marine faction. I loved.
I don't know why I gasped or inhaled. Anyways.
In the previous edition, I think it was both, a little both.
Ah, right.
I am, as you may know, our listeners, sort of biased against Space Marines.
Is it because a Space Marine beat you up when you were a kid?
No, it's because a Space Marine is like the rich kid. They get all the toys.
They get all those toys.
And I just wanted more toys for a long time.
They get wolf toys.
A hungry beast that just wants to eat all things.
Wait a second, Andrew. Are you the avatar of the Tyranids?
No, I'm just like a spokesperson for them.
Okay.
We'd all be better off.
You're a lobbyist? You're a lobbyist for Tyranids?
But yes, Deathwatch is a very cool branch of the Inquisition. They're specifically the Ordo Xenos, which if you don't know what that means, because you don't speak Latin or specifically follow this game...
I like that there might be some listeners just like, yeah, I don't know much about Warhammer 40k, but I love Latin. Yeah. And they just use it all the time in this game.
But it's specifically the branch of the Inquisition that goes after aliens, specifically because, as you may or may not know, the Grey Knights are the Malleus. They go after demons. Specifically, the Sisters of Battle are the Hereticus. They go after heretics. They're the Holy Order.
I really thought for a moment you were going to say, I don't know if you know this, there are a lot of aliens out there in the universe.
But the Ordo Xenos, a.k.a. the Deathwatch, I gotta tell you, there are lots of aliens out there.
There are lots of them.
And they needed a faction specifically to just go after the aliens.
Yep.
The Deathwatch specifically, they are Space Marines. They're essentially Space Marines that are plucked. They're like drafted from all different chapters, and then they are forced to paint their armor black.
And I think it's like an honorary thing. It's kind of like there's this old data slate, and I feel like it's really popular these days. Like people are picking up on it. It's like
Throne Games.
Throne Games, the Throne of Games, or something like that. And there was like a group in there called like the Night's Watch. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, and it's like they have to go on like a wall or something.
They have to go to a wall.
Just like weird people on.
Maybe it's like a space wall. Do you think they were defending against the Tyranids? Anyways, but basically they kind of all come from different places and must take the quote-unquote black and essentially combine their united forces against one common enemy.
Now, the one thing that's very cool about them not only becoming a real faction, but the way they designed them, and even more so in this edition, how they've enhanced them, is they are the kids with all the toys.
They get the most toys. So I understand that you have a problem with just a good amount of toys, but when they have all the toys, you're like, you know what? Now I'm back in.
It's like, I like the cut of your jib. Because I would just want all of the organic mass in the galaxy. Why not have all the toys?
And they just want all the toys.
Yes.
See, you just respect the most maximum version of something.
Opposite sides of the spectrum is where I enforce.
Was Tau because they had all the Frisbees? Sneaky fucking Frisbees?
Yes, Jay, we get it. They're sneaky. But they also had the new toys. They had the newest toys.
That's true.
But the Deathwatch, they have access to something really cool for their bolt weapons, which is called Special Issue Ammunition, which essentially is like their bolt guns can do different things, which is really rad.
Pretty rad.
But then also their kill teams, which are essentially like they're veterans, but they can just like you can do whatever the fuck you want with it. It's not like a normal tactical squad, which is just a tactical squad with a couple special weapons.
It's like Unbound, but for a unit.
Yes, it's like any weapon that you can choose that a Space Marine can get. You know what? There could be Terminators in there. There could be jump pack Marines in there. Fuck it. There's also bikes
There's
in
just
there.
a bike in there.
Which is really rad.
It's kind of like it's like the Magnificent Seven in every unit.
Exactly. That's a perfect example. It is that data slate, the Magnificent Seven.
Oh, I love that
except
data
your
slate.
whole army is that, and it's fucking rad as shit. And so and that's the best part, is that all of these different faction units, like the jump pack guys, which are Vanguard veterans, or the Terminators, which are essentially just normal tactical veterans that get to become Terminators, or bikes, which are just, awesome because they're fucking space bikes. I mean, who doesn't want a
space
goddamn
bikes
space
are the
bike?
shit.
But they all, within this singular unit, you can run the Terminators and the Vanguard veterans and the bikes as individual units, but you put them all in one, and they give specific bonuses to that unit.
Which is so cool.
Which is so rad. So the Vanguard veterans give the unit the ability to fall back from combat and still fire, still shoot.
Whoa.
Like they had fly, because the guy has jump pack, and he's like, let me teach you the ways.
Let me teach you the ways of stepping backwards
Yes.
and then continuing to fire.
And then
Let me teach you about my great chapter master, John Woo.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I mean, you're just on a roll. Yeah. I mean, it's just like, yes.
My data slate metaphors are hitting maximum.
On point. He just teaches them the way of doves. It's just all dove compartments.
Oh,
It's
is
just-
that what the secret is?
Yes, it just institutes slow-mo and then doves.
And then they just like, God, what are all these extra hatches for? Oh, you'll find out. Also, here's some birdseed. What's this for? You'll need it. This is all incredibly vague, and we're about to go into war. Please tell me.
No, it's better in the moment.
And he's right.
And then you add a single Terminator to the unit, and it can be up to 5 Terminators. Because essentially you have to take like the 5 core guys, and then you have 5 guys that can be any combination of the rest. Terminators make the unit immune to morale. They make them fearless in essence, because he's a fucking Terminator. He's like, I'm in this awesome suit. I don't give a shit about anything. Now you all don't give a shit about
Like,
anything.
yeah, that makes sense. Wait a second. We don't have Terminator armor. He's like, nah, you're still fearless.
Well, even though, the wave mechanic of removing casualties is gone, and you can just choose a guy, like, most of the time, like, unless you want to keep the unit fearless, like, a Terminator's a good guy to take wounds on,
I guess it's
essentially.
true. I guess fluff-wise, he's like, don't worry, I'll take the bullets
He's
for
like the
everybody.
guy that stands out front, essentially. He's like, I'll lead the fucking way, because I'm in this goddamn nearly impenetrable armor with an energy field around it.
That makes sense.
That's rad as fuck. So he does that. Then you add a bike to the unit, and the bike allows them to, unlike the Vanguard guy, which gets them fall back and shoot, the bike allows them to fall back and then charge again.
Whoa.
So you
I like it.
So you get one of all 3 in there, and you get all those rad abilities, and then, like
So you
I
can just
said,
do everything.
you just do everything. It's just the everything unit. It's rad as... It's so fucking cool.
You know what's kind of interesting when I think about this? Because I think about the Deathwatch, because I play mostly Eldar or Eldari type armies.
Yes.
I have Harlequins and Asuryani, I think is what they're called.
Asuryani, yes.
Asuryani, which are like Craft World Eldar now.
Yeah, because you have Drukari, you have Asuryani, and you have Inari, are the 3 different groups.
Right. And I play Harlequins, which are kind of like the Deathwatch of Eldar.
Yes.
Basically. And I think it's interesting
Elite of the elite.
that Deathwatch, when you combo them all together, kind of have the powers of a troop with Rising Crescendo.
Yep.
Because Rising Crescendo lets you leave and shoot and leave and charge. And if you have the full combo of Deathwatch, you can leave and shoot and leave and charge. That's really neat. I like that a
Yes.
lot.
This means that with these combos, and you're not required to take them in any respect, but like, this is what the thing I want to emphasize is this army is what you make it. It's going to be an elite army. Like, you're not going to have many of them because they're more expensive, because they're all the best at what they do.
Mm-hmm.
But what you can do with that army is like the emphasis of a Swiss Army knife. They are the embodiment of jack of all trades. They can essentially engage anything in the game.
And luckily for everyone listening, Andrew has crafted the perfect Deathwatch army.
Oh, God.
This will be the first and final list ever created for Deathwatch.
No, we're not going to go that far.
Congratulations all.
Nope, we're not doing that. This is the first time it took me an entire day to build this list, because I literally had the worst decision paralysis I've ever had in the game, and I've been playing this game going on 18 years.
And the thing is, I don't think people understand, days in the black and brown library are like
It's a
week long. It's a
long time.
long time.
But yeah, trying to come up with this stuff, there's just so many options. I'm not sure what the best choice is. My only comment with the list I'm about to give you is essentially, I think it might be too light on anti-vehicle, whereas like you're like 30 fucking fusion guns deep, so you have like way more than you ever need. This list has...
I struggle to find anti-horde in mine. I'm like, do I have anything that can kill more than one thing? No? Fuck.
Except in combat. In combat, you do really well. But
Yeah.
But this army, this is definitely focusing more on shooting because I want to really emphasize how flexible the special issue ammunition and everything is. Like, it's just really fucking cool. So this army is just 2 detachments. It's just a battalion and a flyer wing because battalions and stuff don't access the flyers, and they have their own unique flyer called the Corvus Blackstar, which if you haven't seen the movie Aliens, you should watch.
You mean the Data Slate?
The Data
Alien.
Slate Aliens. The movie's the old term.
Yeah, old term.
The Data Slate Aliens. First, you should watch it because it's great. Also, the dropship in that movie is essentially that Data Slate is essentially what the Corvus Blackstar is. It looks just like it, which is not a bad thing.
No, not a bad thing at all.
And it allows them to transport their guys, including bikes in it, which is super fucking cool.
I mean, the only thing cooler than a space bike is a space bike launching off of
a spaceship.
Aw, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's really fucking cool. And the Corvus Blackstar is also really good and deceptively tough. So the Corvus Blackstar is 14 wounds.
That's a lot of wounds.
With toughness 7.
Oh.
It ironically has strength 8. Not really sure what the use of that is because it hits on a 6 and only
I mean,
has
I
3
guess
attacks.
it's going so fast that it feels like getting hit by a knight.
Well, it's like a brick shit house. I mean, you would look at the way it's designed. It was not designed for elegance. It was designed to take the most punishment possible.
Yeah. I mean, they're a branch that focuses on backslapping the fucking Xenos. Like, they get out there and they just crush.
But this thing, it starts out, it is a hover jet flyer, which if you don't know what it is, it starts as a flyer on the board, which means it can't be charged unless by flyers. It's hard to hit, stuff like that. And it does the pivoting thing because it's supersonic, but it has the choice also to essentially become a skimmer and not forced to pivot. It can
Which
move where it wants.
is really cool when flyers get the hover ability. That's so strong.
It's essentially the best kind of flyer. Those type of flyers will be slower than regular flyers in almost all respects. Like you were talking about your Hemlock, which is 20 to 60 inch movement. This one is only 20 to 45 to start with, but that's why it has hover.
You're right, 45.
Yeah.
So slow, man.
So slow.
So slow. I could almost run faster than that.
But this list has 2 Corvus Blackstars because they are expensive at 257 points
I see.
for transport. But like this list is probably, it doesn't have to alpha strike, but when it alpha strikes, oh boy, oh fucking boy. If 50% of their army is not gone in that alpha strike, I would be very surprised.
Yeesh.
So these Corvus Blackstars, they come stock with a twin assault cannon and stormstrike missiles. We'll get to that. But I've kitted them to be really just anti-armor focused. And this is where I was saying it may be lacking some anti-armor because they're the only real anti-armor in the game. But it's basically got 2 lascannons, which, if you don't know, are very strong.
They are pretty good.
Strength 9, AP minus 3, D6 damage with 48-inch range. Very strong. And since there's 2 of them, it's 2 shots of that. They also have stormstrike missiles, which are essentially auto 3 damage crack missiles.
Oh.
Which is also very good.
Jeez, I'll take it.
Strength 8, AP minus 3, also like lascannons, except 1 less strength, and auto 3 damage. Very good.
Anything that's auto 3 damage is just so good.
So their sole purpose is to like hunt knights and things. Heavy armor essentially is like their sole purpose. They also get access to 2 really cool pieces of war gear, either the auspex array or an Infernum Halo launcher. So the Infernum Halo launcher,
Infernum Halo launcher. That thing sounds amazing.
well, it's more defensive than you may think. It's essentially, if you are familiar with old military terms, it's chaff. It's
okay,
they're
I
shooting
gotcha.
out flares
To
essentially.
catch missiles and things like that.
Yeah, so what it
Neat.
does is if a thing has fly, it gets an additional -1 to hit them, essentially.
That's awesome.
So they have good like counter flyer ability, but I took specifically the auspex array, which is they can reroll hit rolls of 1 when targeting things that don't have fly.
That's pretty sweet.
That's really, really strong, especially since most of the things they're going to be hunting are going to be on the ground.
Exactly. And when they get minuses because of the heavy weapons and things like that. So
Exactly.
you need a little bit of that addition to accuracy.
Now that's our flyer wing. Our battalion is 2 Watchmasters, which if you don't know what Watchmasters are, they're essentially the chapter master specific to Deathwatch. And what's most important with them, they actually don't have variable war gear, which is interesting. They only have access to what they start with. Which is a Guardian Spear, which both has shooting and close combat. Its shooting is basically a -1 AP bolter with 2 damage.
That's pretty good.
And their spear in melee is +1 strength, -3 rend, and D3 damage. Also good.
Also great.
But they're there for one reason and one reason specifically, and that's their aura, which is you can reroll failed to hit rolls for friendly Deathwatch units within 6 inches of that model.
That is dope.
They are the chapter master for the Deathwatch, and that aura is super strong, especially since this entire army is basically shooting.
Yeah.
So how typically this army functions is that the Corvus Blackstars will have the 2 Watchmasters in it, and a unit, one of the 4 units in there, with the Watchmaster inside of the Corvus Blackstar, essentially to guarantee that at least the Corvus Blackstar, possibly, but the unit of Deathwatch guys and the Watchmaster will have twin link shooting, which is very strong.
Yeah, that's nice.
So the core of the army is 4 kill teams, because that's what they essentially split into, is these amalgam magnificent 7 teams as kill teams.
Their names are...
There are too many of them. I can't come up with that many names.
Toaster Blasters, Laser Fiends,
Silver Snakes, and the
Blue Barracudas.
or Purple Parrots. They're also-
You know what? Purple Parrots.
yeah, we're gonna go with that.
Much more terrifying. Fucking colorful birds.
Colorful birds, man. But there are basically 2 pairs of kill teams, and they're identical. So the first set of kill teams has bolters. It's 6 veterans with bolters. One of them is a sergeant. The sergeant has a combi melta, which combi weapons in this edition are so much better because they're not one-time use.
And you can fire them at the same time as the other bolter.
Fire both of them. You suffer a -1, but who the fuck cares?
And if you're
when
your
you
Watchmaster, you can reroll hits.
Reroll all hits. 1 Terminator. Essentially, all of these kill teams are going to have 1 Terminator and 1 Vanguard veteran.
Right, to give them all those buffs.
Yeah, you can choose if you want to stick a bike in there as well. The problem is you have to essentially knock the kill teams down a few guys because the bike takes up 3 slots in the transport.
That makes sense.
And if you want to have the Watchmaster in there with them, or you could just say, well, only one has a Watchmaster in there with them, so only that unit is reduced type of situation. It's up to you. Very valuable for another reason, which I'll get into a second. But the 2 core units have, like I said, they have bolters, 1 with a combi melta. Now, let me read to the audience what special ammunition is, because it's downright amazing. So, when using a bolt pistol, bolt gun, twin bolt gun, which are on bikes, or stalker pattern bolt gun or guardian spear is what the
Watchmasters have, right?
Stalker pattern bolt guns are a specific sniper pseudo-esque version bolt gun for the Deathwatch. When you use these, you get to choose either the stock ammunition, but why the fuck would you?
Yeah, why would you ever do that?
Or one of 4 different choices. And Jay and I both agree the first one is probably the least useful in most circumstances, which is Dragonfire bolts. You add 1 to your hit rolls for units that are in cover.
Which is so unfortunate, because it's the coolest name.
Yeah. I just don't, so rarely will that be the one used.
You think it'd have something more that would be similar to, like, a flamer or something like that? That'd be rad.
Well, originally they were doing, blasts and stuff. So
Right.
they were effectively, doing more damage to things in cover, which was a cool idea, but I guess it didn't translate as well to this edition with no more blasts and stuff like that. But Hellfire rounds, you wound anything on a 2 that's not a vehicle.
So good.
Wow, that's strong. Kraken bolts, which add 3 inches to the range of the weapon of a pistol.
And will make a Kraken appear beneath you and drag you down into the deep, dark, watery depths. Right?
No.
Oh.
No, the Kraken shot out of the shell.
Oh, shit. That's way more metal as hell.
So 3 inches to the range of pistols, 6 inches to range to everything else. Remember, that's not decreasing, that's increasing range.
Yeah.
And makes the weapon have a -1 AP, or adds 1 to their AP.
That's awesome.
That's very strong. Or Vengeance rounds, which does the opposite. It reduces their range by 3 for pistols, or 6 for regular guns, but makes their AP increased by 2.
Which is nice.
Which is downright silly when you think about an AP -2 bolter.
Yeah.
That's
So many shots.
mean. Usually you have to go to plasma weapons to get AP
And the thing
on
is,
that level.
Deathwatch are known for being able to get in close.
Yeah, that's everything in this army is in your face. Like I said, turn 1 and 2.
Sweet.
So that's the 2 core units. They can do that type of stuff. The second 2 units have Deathwatch shotguns, which I love shotguns, And they just have the best shotguns in the fucking galaxy. I mean,
of
they're
course
just,
they would.
They're just amazing. The shotguns have their own unique special issue
Whoa, really?
ammunition. Yes.
That's incredible.
And so there are 3 options. Silly. So there's 16-inch range guns normally, which is more than the average shotgun, which is 12. Assault 2, always great. The first one, it's strength 4, no AP, 1 damage. You can reroll failed wound rolls for those.
That's nice.
Awesome. The second version is AP -1, and if you're at half range, they become damage 2.
Oh boy. It's pretty good.
Incredible for elite units that have multiple wounds.
That's so awesome.
And then the last version, it becomes a strength 3 flamer.
Wow.
Like not like a hand flamer D3, D6 flamer
For all those shotguns.
for every single one of them. Wow. That's silly.
That's awesome.
It's just absurd. It's just so good. So the other units, like I said, are full units of 8 instead. 8 veterans, 1 Terminator, and
again, like what's really cool about this, and we kind of talked about its stratagems at the front of this episode, is that with special ammunition, you can change constantly on the fly.
Yes.
So you don't have to decide at the top of the game, like, oh, they've got these type of bullets. These guys have these type of shotgun shells. You can just like, oh, what is that? A horde of guys? All right, switch to flamers. Oh, what is that? A bunch of elite units? Switch to the 2 damage shots. Like, that's amazing.
And essentially, with their flexibility, you can choose to do whatever the hell you want with them, which is really important when essentially they can take on anything in an army. Just every unit handles all situations. Very strong.
Very cool.
But then the last bit was adding 2 drop pods. This is as far as I'll extend outside of the just Deathwatch stuff. Essentially because Corvus Blackstars are very expensive, and I don't see a normal army fielding more than 3 in one army.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's basically it. That is the army, is just that.
I love to see more Deathwatch on the table because I think just the fluff of the army is incredible, and the special ammunition and like the unique combo units is just so cool. Like, I really look forward to seeing more of these guys out there, and we'll see what happens when they get their codex, because I'm pretty excited to see what those stratagems and those like relics and artifacts look like. So, Andrew, what is the name of this list?
Well, it's odd that you brought up that old data slate, the Throne of Games, because this list is called My Watch Begins.
That is dope. I approve of that list name. It sounds great. Guys, that's our list and episode of Roll to Seize, episode 38. As usual, we'll be posting a new episode of this segment every last Wednesday of the month, with episodes of Dark Heresy the first and second Wednesday, and 40K Arena every third Wednesday. And if you'd like to download more episodes or check out other similar podcasts, head over to partialarc.com. You can email us any questions at rolltoseize@gmail.com. Of course, you can always follow us on Twitter and Instagram for tournament and model picks at partialarc. Thanks for listening, and keep a lookout on that Orc website Kickstarter, as we'll be debuting Mortals very soon. That's, again, October 17th.
You can go to our website and sign up, and you will be part of the email list to get updates.
All right, guys, see you on the next episode of Roll to Seize!